When people talk about Formula One's 2026 regulations, the conversation usually circles around power units, manufacturers, and political power shifts. But the most important transformation isn't happening in the factories or boardrooms. It's happening inside the cockpit. The new regulations fundamentally change how drivers must interact with the car on every single lap. The 2026 cars will rely far more heavily on electrical power than anything we've seen before. That means drivers won't just be driving fast. They'll be managing energy deployment, traction, and acceleration simultaneously. Power delivery won't feel smooth or predictable. Instead, it will fluctuate depending on battery state, aerodynamic mode, and corner type. Downforce will be reduced, and active aerodynamics will constantly shift the car's balance between straights and corners. In simple terms, the cars won't feel settled. They won't reward repetition. Drivers won't be able to lean on muscle memory and repeat identical inputs lap after lap. Instead, they'll be forced to adapt continuously, responding to a car that behaves slightly differently every few corners. This is where Max Verstappen stands apart. Throughout his career, Verstappen has shown an unusual ability to thrive when the car is uncomfortable. He's quick when grip is marginal, quick when the rear feels nervous, and quick when the car refuses to give clear feedback. While many drivers rely on the car to provide confidence, Verstappen has always generated that confidence himself. Previous regulations allowed aerodynamics to hide weaknesses. Strong downforce could stabilize a car and make it forgiving. The 2026 rules remove that safety net. Mechanical grip, throttle control, and decision-making under pressure suddenly matter more than ever. And those are areas where Verstappen has consistently excelled. So the real question isn't whether 2026 will challenge Max Verstappen. The real question is whether it will expose just how dependent many of his rivals are on stable, predictable cars that give them easy answers. Because once the car stops explaining itself, only the drivers who truly understand its limits will remain in control. And if instability sounds like a disadvantage, the next part will show why. At the highest level of racing, discomfort is often where true speed lives. There's a common belief in motorsport that a stable car is always a fast car. But at the very edge of performance, that assumption breaks down. True speed doesn't come from perfect grip. It comes from operating consistently at the limit of it. Formula One tires produce their maximum grip not when they are fully planted, but when they are slightly sliding. Engineers call this the optimal slip angle, typically around 6 to 8 degrees. For many drivers, this zone feels like a warning sign. For Max Verstappen, it feels natural. Throughout his career, Verstappen has been open about his preference for a sharp, aggressive front end. He has repeatedly stated that understeer is slow, regardless of how comfortable it feels. This philosophy has shaped Red Bull's car design for years. The team has deliberately built cars with extremely responsive front axles, cars that rotate quickly and punish hesitation. Red Bull's technical leadership has openly admitted that Verstappen's preferences allow them to unlock performance that would be unusable for most drivers. And the evidence is clear in teammate comparisons. One after another, highly skilled drivers have struggled to extract speed from cars built around Verstappen's demands. Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, and Sergio Perez all described variations of the same problem. The car was simply too sharp, too reactive, too unforgiving. Qualifying gaps weren't small, they were overwhelming. These weren't failures of talent, but mismatches between driver comfort and car philosophy. What makes 2026 so significant is that the regulations push every team in this same direction. Reduced downforce means less aerodynamic stability. Instant electric torque demands precise throttle control. Active aerodynamics remove the predictability of a fixed balance. Every driver will be forced closer to the edge where Verstappen already operates comfortably. Several drivers have already expressed concern. Simulator feedback suggests unpredictable power delivery mid-straight. Others worry about managing traction in low-grip conditions. These concerns reveal something important. 2026 isn't just physically demanding, it's mentally demanding. Drivers won't just be racing the track, they'll be racing energy systems, aerodynamic modes, and constantly shifting grip levels. For Verstappen, this environment isn't unfamiliar. It's familiar territory, but this ability didn't appear overnight. To understand why Verstappen processes chaos differently, you have to go back long before Formula One, even before karting championships. Most people will watch 2026 unfold without understanding what they're seeing. If you don't want to be one of them, subscribe now, because the next part changes how you'll watch Formula One forever. Max Verstappen's adaptability didn't begin in Formula One. It was engineered years earlier through one of the most demanding development programs motorsport has ever seen. Under the guidance of his father, Jos Verstappen, Max's karting career was built around discomfort. Training sessions continued in freezing weather while others packed up. Rain wasn't avoided, it was embraced. Verstappen was sent out repeatedly in low grip conditions, learning to feel traction through instinct rather than confidence. But the most important element wasn't physical toughness, it was mechanical awareness. Max was trained to sense changes without being told they had occurred. Kart setups were altered in secret. Extra weight was sometimes added without warning. Verstappen was given only a few laps to identify what had changed, or match lap times regardless. Approval didn't come from excuses. It came from adaptation. This training forged an ability that remains central to his dominance today. Instant mechanical feedback recognition. Verstappen can feel subtle balance changes within a single lap. He often exits the garage already questioning adjustments engineers barely consider significant. In a 2026 car, where balance, torque delivery, and aerodynamic behavior can change lap by lap, this sensitivity becomes priceless. His wet weather performances offer the clearest proof. Brazil 2016 remains iconic, but later drives showed even greater control. Starting deep in the field, Verstappen has repeatedly sliced through chaos with precision rather than aggression. He doesn't search for grip, he anticipates it. That said, Verstappen isn't immune to mismatch. When the car falls completely outside his preferred window, even he can struggle. But the key difference in 2026 is this: every car will live closer to discomfort. And when no one feels fully comfortable, the driver who understands discomfort best gains the edge. But raw feel is only part of the equation. The next advantage Verstappen brings into 2026 exists in a place many still underestimate: simulation. While some drivers treat simulators as a necessary chore, Max Verstappen treats them as competition. For him, virtual racing isn't preparation, it's instinct training. Since joining Team Redline early in his career, Verstappen has spent thousands of hours racing in simulated environments under pressure. Endurance races, strategy decisions, night stints. He's experienced them all. And unlike casual sim usage, these sessions mirror the mental demands of real racing. This matters because the 2026 regulations introduce a new layer of complexity. Energy harvesting, deployment timing, and strategic decision-making will play a constant role during races. Drivers won't just react, they'll calculate. Several team principals have acknowledged this shift. The new era rewards drivers who can think several corners ahead while still driving at the limit. Verstappen has been doing exactly that for years in virtual competition. By contrast, some drivers avoid simulators due to the lack of physical sensation. That difference is crucial. While simulators may lack G-forces, they replicate cognitive pressure with remarkable accuracy. Decision-making, anticipation, and pattern recognition remain intact. In 2026, the competitive edge moves further into the mental domain. Drivers must manage systems without losing rhythm. Mistakes won't come from lack of speed, but from overload. This is where Verstappen's experience compounds his advantage. History tells us regulation changes usually reset the grid, so why might 2026 do the opposite for Verstappen? That's where the final piece comes in. Major regulation changes usually disrupt dominance. We've seen it time and again. Ferrari faded after 2004. Red Bull collapsed in 2014. Mercedes struggled after 2021. Logic suggests 2026 should follow the same pattern. But Max Verstappen has already proven he doesn't follow historical scripts. When ground effect cars arrived, many drivers struggled to adapt. Verstappen adjusted immediately. When his car wasn't the fastest, he compensated through racecraft, tire management, and decision-making. Even in seasons where Red Bull lacked clear superiority, Verstappen remained a title threat. That adaptability is exactly what the 2026 regulations reward. Yes, Red Bull faces risks. A new power unit program, organizational changes, strong rivals from Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Audi. But the new rules don't reward perfection alone. They reward drivers who can extract performance when systems are imperfect. Reduced downforce, higher torque, variable energy states, active aerodynamics. These elements don't simplify racing, they complicate it. And complexity is where Verstappen excels. Rather than neutralizing his strengths, 2026 may force everyone else into his world. The era ahead won't be decided by who has the smoothest car. It will be decided by who understands chaos best. And right now, no one understands it better than Max Verstappen. So when the lights go out in 2026, the real question won't be who built the best car, but who was already prepared to drive one that refuses to behave. And here's where things get interesting, because Verstappen's future doesn't just depend on these regulations. It also depends on Red Bull's engine gamble. That's something I explained in detail in my last video. Why is Ford joining F1 with Red Bull?